about what's happening right now, why I'm dressed this way. Today is the Nakba, which in Arabic means catastrophe. What it marks is the day in 1948 when Israel got statehood, achieved statehood, and then Palestinians were driven from their lands, or they fled from their lands, and the Nakba is the catastrophe of Israeli statehood. This is the 70th anniversary of that catastrophe, according to Palestinians, and each year they mark it with protest demonstrations. So, to give you a setup of where I am, we're going to walk out a little bit, Gil and I. So this is the main street entrance of Ramallah, and Gil's going to show you what's happening. Is we've got Israeli soldiers. That is the way that he's showing you where they are. If you continue in that direction, is the way to get out of Ramallah and essentially get to Jerusalem. Now they are standing there. Why? Because let's switch around down the main street up to this rooftop. You see those kids up there. They are throwing stones. Sometimes I haven't seen any petrol bombs today, but they are throwing rocks at the soldiers, and the soldiers just shot back with tear gas. There are more young people. It's usually young people, teenagers. There's some ones that just came across here. Only teenagers, young people who are out here demonstrating, and you see the street is fairly empty right now. But the soldiers, essentially, it's people have described this as a cat and mouse. They throw rocks or petrol bombs. The soldiers fire back. It's tear gas. Sometimes they bring water cannons into here. Today, what we're seeing mostly is that they're firing tear gas, and we've seen several snipers who are here. And snipers are not using rubber bullets or tear gas; they're using fire. And there's some fire that you're hearing right there. That's directed at those kids. We also just heard some tear gas landing. So to talk to you a little bit more about what's happening here, this is Nakba Day, and the kind of protests and this back and forth to varying degrees of violence are occurring throughout the West Bank. Now I'm sort of taking a look down here and back here behind me, just to make sure everything's okay, because anything can move forward all at once. That's that. So throughout the West Bank, Palestinians are protesting. Bethlehem is where we're hearing that there's quite a bit of protesting going on. There's another location away from here in another part of Ramallah, also protests. And this also coincides with protests that are happening along the Gaza fence, of course, that we know about, with 50 plus people killed on Monday at the same time that the United States was opening its new embassy in Jerusalem. So here, not only are they very angry about those people who were killed, also thousands who were wounded by live fire on the part of Israel's army at the fence dividing Gaza and Israel. They're angry all the way around, plus they're marking this Nakba, this catastrophe day, so they're taking to the streets. So essentially here you have the army wanting to keep them back from what is the border, and as you see, at times they'll move forward. They're farther than I usually see them inside of Ramallah, because this is Palestinian territory, and usually the soldiers don't come this far in. But right now there's a no-tolerance attitude, and they are pushing in very heavily. At the very start of these protests today, we saw Palestinian young people rolling tires down the center of the street. They started them to light them up, and these soldiers that you see behind us, they came running right away en masse, in force, to stop anything from, quote-unquote, as far as the Israeli army is concerned, getting out of hand. They don't want people approaching that border crossing into Israel territory. This can go on for hours. It generally does. A lot of tear gas. We have ambulances further up the street. We don't want to go out too far into the middle here, because then we're right between the people who were throwing rocks, the Palestinians, and the soldiers who were shooting rubber bullets, shooting tear gas, and shooting live fire. This year's Nakba, or Catastrophe Day, is not quite here in Ramallah what we expected. We had thought that there would be significant increases. Today is the 70th year that they're marking this day. As well, we have the situation in Gaza, which is very volatile, very upsetting, obviously, to Palestinians living in the West Bank who have family, relatives down in Gaza, and they're seeing the images, they're seeing what's happening, they know that live fire is being used there, people are being killed. People are really upset here, but we had expected to turn out to be heavier than it was, and the presence hasn't been as strong as we thought it would be. It could pick up in the coming days, it could pick up later today. However, at the same time, the Palestinian president here, Mahmoud Abbas, he's called for 3 days of mourning because of the numbers of people who were killed in and now I'm going to ask the guy who's behind the camera person not to throw a rock at me because he's on the roof and I see him looking at me, but I wouldn't be the aim necessarily, it would be a soldier. But there's a guy right up here with rocks ready to throw at the soldiers. Not at me, please, thank you. Thank you. But I laugh a little bit, but this is not funny. There's nothing funny about this situation, especially when people are getting wounded and they are being killed. Again, 3 days of mourning declared here to honor the memories of those people who were killed in Gaza. Also a general strike here, and that was called on the part of Palestinian President Mahmoud Abbas. Human rights groups are calling, and I've got a little bit of tear gas seeping in here, so I may pull out my scarf in a minute. Human rights organizations are calling for a de-escalation on all sides. They're calling for Israel to back down. They're calling for Hamas to rein in the people in Gaza, to keep them away from the fences, to keep them away from the separation between Gaza and Israel. And those include Doctors Without Borders, UNRWA, Euromed, which Euromed is going so far as to actually point a finger at Israel and say that the international community needs to call on Israel to stop what they say for the murder of Gazans. Now, this guy throwing stuff from the roof possibly could put us in not such a great situation, because if the soldiers catch on to him and there they go, they will start firing at him, which puts us kind of right in the middle, and here we are. So we're going to move back a little bit, because chances are they will fire this way. They just signaled us, so they see us, and chances are we're going to get some fire coming this way right about now. We're going to get out of the way. Gil's going to show you this guy getting ready to fire. He's going to fire tear gas at these guys up on the roof, who I asked him not to hit us. And you're going to kind of see this happening in living color and live. There you go. So we'll just hope the tear gas won't land too close to us, because it's not pleasant at all. That is essentially what you're seeing, is what's happening on the streets here. And this is not as volatile as other areas, mind you. But yeah, and now the tear gas is coming this way. We can smell it. However, we don't know if the volatility will pick up in the coming days again. As I said, this is 3 days of mourning. Today is the Catastrophe Day. It's going to depend a lot on what's happening also in Gaza, also in the surrounding area. So I'm going to leave you now. I'm here again in Ramallah on the Nakba, or Arabic for Catastrophe Day, where Palestinians are marking the day 70 years ago when Israel gained statehood and Palestinians were pushed off of, or fled their land. Join me on CGTN, social media, Facebook, YouTube, and all social media platforms. Thank you, Stephanie Freid, here again in Ramallah.